Hello, everyone. My name is Ms.Godau. You've probably seen me in the class this past week. I am the student teacher, and I'm going to be putting together some video lectures for you that go along with the notes, the PowerPoint notes, as well as the readings from your textbook. And so this video is going to go over DNA, chromosomes, and genes. So after watching this video, you should have an idea of what chromosomes are, where they can be found, what makes up chromosomes, what a DNA molecule is, and the bases that make up a DNA molecule, the gene, and what genes are and where they can be found as well. So I'm sure many of you have heard of the term DNA before. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So all organisms have DNA contained within their cells. And the DNA acts as a blueprint or a set of instructions that gives each species its heritable traits. So DNA contains the information that will determine your eye color, your skin tone, if you have freckles or not, your hair color, and like even if you are going to have some possible genetic diseases. So nearly all of your body cells have a complete copy of your DNA, and just one of your skin cells or blood cells could be used to clone you, since just one cell contains the complete copy of all your DNA. Now, the DNA molecule, which is found in the cell nucleus, is often compared to a ladder that has been twisted continuously into a spiral. Sort of looks like a spiral staircase, also known as a double helix. So all DNA molecules are made up of the same 4 chemicals arranged in different ways. So these 4 chemicals are known as nucleotides, and they are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Now these 4 chemicals are specific shapes. So like a puzzle, only specific chemicals will fit together. That means adenine and thymine are able to hook up, but not adenine and cytosine. And then cytosine and guanine are able to hook up, but not guanine and thymine. So for myself, my initials are CG, so I was always able to remember that cytosine and guanine were the ones that went together. But for yourself, since you probably don't have my initials, you could remember this with an acronym. And the one that they taught me in school was all tigers can growl. So all tigers, AT, can growl, CG. Now, each rung or section of the ladder is composed of 3 things: a sugar, a phosphate, and a nitrogen-containing base. So that base being adenine, thymine, cytosine, or guanine. And so the sugar and the phosphate make up the outside of your ladder, whereas the nitrogen-containing base is sort of the steps that are going to be in the DNA molecule. And the sequence of the bases, so the sequence or order of adenine, thymine, cytosine in your DNA molecule creates the genetic code for that organism. So human DNA actually has 3 billion base pairs within a DNA molecule, or about 3 billion, which if you lay out a DNA molecule for a human, just a long string that's super tiny, it would be about 2 meters long, which is really long for something that is super skinny and tiny, right? And can fit within our cells. Now, with that in mind, since DNA has to fit within our tiny cells, it arranges itself in the nucleus into compact packages, and these packages are called chromosomes. So essentially, the DNA is spooled around a protein, which is then coiled some more and then compressed tightly to form the chromosomes. And DNA takes the shape for this compact shape within the cell to help aid in cell division. It wouldn't help if the DNA was just like an unspooled sort of noodle within the cell nucleus, it would make division a lot more difficult. So it organizes itself into these nice compact packages. Now, all human cells contain a complete set of chromosomes except for gametes. And we will explore the why of that in a later video when we cover mitosis and meiosis. So in the image here, you can see we have an animated version of the DNA and how it's wound up. And beside it, you can see what actual chromosomes like under a microscope. So most humans have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. And you get 23 from your mom and 23 from your dad. Now I say most humans have 46, but there are instances where people have an additional chromosome. And when that happens, it's usually on the 21st chromosome pair. And in this case, they have a third chromosome number 21. And so Down syndrome, also known as trisomy 21, tri meaning 3, so 3 chromosomes, and chromosomes come in a pair, so that means there's one additional chromosome on chromosome 21. Now, not all organisms have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs of chromosomes. They vary between organisms or species. So dogs have 78 chromosomes or 39 pairs. Cats have 38 chromosomes or 19 pairs of chromosomes. Horses have 64 or 32 pairs. And our closest relative, the chimpanzee, has 48 or 24 pairs. So very close to humans. And research indicates that the fusion of 2 ancestral chromosomes together is what made human chromosome number 2 from chimpanzees. And that's why we now have 23 pairs of chromosomes instead of 24, like our near ancestor. So now let's talk about genes. So a gene is an uninterrupted segment of DNA, which contains the coded instructions for the organism to make proteins. So you can see in our picture here, we have our nice segment of DNA, and just this uninterrupted segment is a gene. Now, genes can be anywhere from 300 base pairs in length to over 1 million base pairs in length. You can see we have a tiny gene, and then we can have really large genes. Now, different species have different genes, but all DNA, no matter what the species, uses the same language. So those 4 chemical bases that we talked about earlier, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, those chemicals are also used to make up the DNA of other organisms and species. And so the sequence is just in a different order, and so it therefore codes for different things and different characteristics or traits. So genes are located on the chromosome, and each chromosome has numerous genes and different genes on each chromosome. So on chromosome 1, you can find indicators for if you're going to have prostate cancer, glaucoma, Alzheimer's disease. On chromosome 2, you can find indicators of if there's going to be colon cancer. Chromosome 4 will indicate if you're going to have Huntington's disease or not. And so you're not going to find the same genes on a bunch of chromosomes. So you're not going to find a hair color gene on all of your chromosomes. It'll typically be on just one of your chromosomes. And genes come in pairs. So we have 23 chromosomes from mom and 23 from dad to make up our total of 46 chromosomes. So therefore, that means we're going to have genes from your mom and genes from your dad. And this is because one sperm has 23 chromosomes and one egg has 23 chromosomes. And when they come together to fertilize the egg, that makes up for a total of 46 chromosomes. And we'll go into this in a bit more detail in the mitosis and meiosis video, but that's why we have two different genes coming together from both of our parents. Now, how is this DNA copied to make proteins? So we have our strand of DNA, and it is in the cell nucleus, and there is a chemical reaction or a chemical response where RNA copies the bases from the DNA. This small, and it's just a small section, so it's not going along and copying the entire length of your DNA, it's copying just a small section. This small section of RNA is able to leave the cell nucleus out into the cell. So it's still in the cell, it's in the cytoplasm, and it'll find a ribosome. And what the ribosome is responsible for is translating what the RNA has to say, what it copied from the DNA. And when it's going through the ribosome is able to read this RNA and dictate what amino acids are going to be required to form a protein. And this is where you will see mutations happen. So RNA isn't always perfect. There's often copying errors made about 1 out of 100,000 times. And these mutations could lead to alterations in traits or lead to diseases as well too, which furthers on evolution as well too. For example, if an animal that needs to dig a lot to stay alive doesn't have really good claws, there might be a mutation that causes that organism to have better claws, and that mutation will be passed on to future generations. And that species or that organism within the species is going to do really well as opposed to its brothers and sisters that don't have that mutation. All right, so we have your DNA, which is copied by the RNA, which is then used to create proteins. And these proteins can be used throughout your body. So there's going to be various different types of proteins. And for example, hemoglobin is a protein structure that is found in your red blood cells. So its size and shape allows it to capture oxygen when blood flows near the lungs, and then release it later when blood flows near oxygen-starved tissues. And there are lots of other proteins that your DNA is able to help create. All right, so that's the conclusion for this video. In the next video, we'll be going over gene variation and Punnett squares. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.